Okay, we're going to have a look at some of the new features of EspressoRec. EspressoRec now has some very interesting case-sensitive features now. This is www.espressorec.co.uk. Let's see how these things work. The first one, imagine you had two names, essentially just John Jones, and Peter Smith, but with slightly different spellings. In EspressoRec, you can highlight columns, and you can do it as adjacent columns or Control-Shift. We're going to do Control-Shift at the moment. And as you may not know, the Control-Shift-N will give you a unique list of these names. Now you can do it on one column alone, and just get John and Peter, or you can do two columns and get Jones and Smith. But the new feature of EspressoRec is that if you can highlight these columns and do Control-Shift-B, it'll give you a case-sensitive version, like this. So each slightly different spelling, not in the spelling but in the case sensitivity, will give you a different result. So as you can see, there's John Jones with a capital for the first letter only, twice there, and then the Jones has got two with the capital S at the end. And so when you look at on a similar pattern, so let's do Control-Shift-B on just one column. You can see the different type of spellings of the Joneses and the Smiths that turn up. And this is very useful for if you're working with passwords that are all nowadays case sensitive. So that's the first feature of EspressoRec. And the second feature I want to look at is EspressoRec's high-speed VLookup. Now this is part of, you do Control-E if you have EspressoRec installed. This will appear for you, and I've filled in some bits and pieces here. Normally when you do EspressoRec's VLookup feature, you paste in your lookup table here, in this region here. All lookup tables, the table you want to be doing the looking up on, essentially have two columns in. The leftmost column that you use as the index to find out what you're after, and then the second column is the answer you're after at that level. Now you'll see classically VLookup tables with lots of columns, but when you actually look at the formula, it's looking for the first one and going across all the way to the one you want. So it's only useful to do this when your VLookups are taking a long time, and it's worth the time for you to just paste into EspressoRec your two-column VLookup. Didn't need that, turn up. So, and then in this column E, what you do is you paste in your the answer that what you're after. You know, USA. What do I want it to happen? And it'll do, you know, 1,000,000 rows in about 60 seconds. When it was first used in Marks and Spencer's a few months ago in the inventory department, their VLookups were taking 2 hours a run for their stock control, and the managers thought it was an April Fool's joke that the button was clicked and in a few seconds the answer turned up. They thought the report had already been run in the morning, and there was some little trick to just copy paste the answer in. It is that fast that it was not believable at first. So so classically you just click that button there, and what it'll do, it'll say UK, go to UK, find the first UK and say the answer's 1, and the UK with different spellings will still pick up the first item, which is a classic way a lookup table works. If you click this button, this is the case-sensitive version. The UK with small letters is 3, and the answer's 3 here. So this is a very high-speed, case-sensitive VLookup. And so the don't know what's going on there. The not found answer, EspressoRec usually defaults to #NA on this one. And so if you do that again, so the not found answers, you have control over it there. The next feature of EspressoRec in its case sensitivities is its summaries. On the main question sheet, normally you have London and Manchester with different spellings. Just with the in terms of the case sensitivities, the summary button will just pick the first one and tell you the sum of that item and the count of that item. And I'll do that very, very quickly, and it saves you setting up a pivot table and ready to go. If you do the case-sensitive summary, it'll take the different spellings vis-a-vis the case and give you the sum and the count of that as well. So it's like a sum if and a countif, very, very high speed, that's case sensitive. So that's the new 3 features of EspressoRec in terms of its VLookup facilities. Once again, to quickly recap, it's the summary, the SUMIF buttons, and the COUNTIF button that's case sensitive, the high-speed VLookup that's case sensitive, and this thing whereby it'll pick out the case sensitive unique list generator. So take the unique items and be case sensitive about it and produce a list for you like that. So hopefully that's useful to you. So it's www.espressorec.co.uk.